All right. All right. We're going to go ahead and get started. Good evening once again to my students who are here and those who are going to be watching the video. For my students who are watching, I do apologize. I'm sorry for my voice sounding crazy, getting over a little cold. Let's do a little review. All right, everybody. I hope that you can see the bottom part of our syllabus, and I want to go over a few things tonight in terms of directions for our final assignment, final project, should I say. So I want to go back to last week. Last week, week 5, we did not meet in person. Well, should I say virtually and not in person, but we did meet virtually. We are now in week 6. But let me go back to week 5. And I started grading your historical African American sermon assignment. And that was Why Sit Ye Here and Die by Maria Stewart. And I just want to pause. Can I just pause right there? Let's talk about that. I want to unpack that before we talk about this week, week 7, 6, 7, 8, and 9. I started grading them, and if I didn't grade yours yet, I didn't get through all of them, but I did get through half of the assignments. I do read them all, so sometimes I don't get them all in one setting. But let me come back to you all. What did you think about Maria Stewart? What did you think about her message? And actually, and I want to say your papers were very good. Hold on, I'm gonna pull my book down. Hold on. What did you all think about Miss Stewart? Oh, Mr. Golf, I hear you talk, but I can't hear you. Uh-oh. Wait a minute. Let's see here. No, no, I can't. Mr. Golf, can anybody hear?
He's
Yeah.
not talking.
No. Okay. Okay. Not sure. Okay. I'm sorry, Mr. Lester. I see you talking, but for some reason I can't hear you. Okay.
I think he's muted, isn't he?
Okay. Now I see it's muted because I see the little thing is over it. Now try to say something. Oh. Oh. Okay. Well, Mr. Golf, if you want to type it in the chat, we something's probably going on. We've heard you before, so I know everything was working before. Maybe something got a little squirrely this tonight with the connection. Your papers were very good, class. Your papers were awesome. I like how you were able to read her sermon and also apply it to what was going on today. Some of you commented about, and think about where she came from. Think about this is 2023. And some of you, as I was reading your papers, excuse me, you were saying that this is still, some of our sermon is still relevant today. There was still application for the congregation to do today. And that was astounding. I don't know if it's scary, but true. All right. Any other comments about Miss Stewart? So I'm gonna go
Well,
back and yeah, go
I,
ahead.
I'm just going to simply say that I was impressed with her, and I felt bad that I did not know of her that much. I guess I didn't, but I did do some research. Went back and read up on her, and she just came over as a very amazing and courageous lady. And again, as you were saying, so much of what she was saying is actually relevant today. Some 160 years later, I think it was, or something. And and then her insight, I thought, was particularly interested in that her insight was not just for the Southern slaves, but she had recognition that the Northerners were there were some similarities. They were held back also, in that, as the saying would say, none of us are free unless all of us are free. So I think she sort of recognized that it couldn't be partialed out.
That was a good point. And Mr. James, I'm not sure if it was your paper, of how somebody was talking about many times in history books, we don't hear a lot about what happened to Northern Black people, or I think it was in somebody's book talked about Northern Black women many times in historical accounts. And remember, this was when was it written? 1832. 1832. And I mean, most of the time during that historical period, a lot of our historical recollections are going to take place from the South, are going to carry information regarding the inhumane slave treatment, which, I mean, it wasn't no secret. But I was glad that she shared what was happening in the North, because that is a part of the historical narrative. We can't just tell one part of it and one part of the United States and don't talk about another part of the United States. I thought that was really good too. Excuse me, everybody. Okay. And I'm pulling up here. 1832, remember, and I was just blown away by the time. 1832, that this African woman is speaking, to people and speaking her mind. Oh, okay, let's do this before we move on. Did anything surprise you from her sermon? And reading the sermon, what do you think, like, when we talk about sermon preparation, and we're going to talk about outlines and all that stuff, she might not have had all that sophisticated stuff, but what do you think her purpose was?
It was more along the lines of application. She wanted the people to move. So
To move.
she was actually using the biblical context to instill in people that they needed to do something. Application. She was explaining some things, but primarily she
Good.
wanted action.
Very good. Very good. I heard application, but her overall purpose. So remember, as we've been reading, right? I want to, sorry, y'all, make sure that we apply the things that we're reading. But she definitely wanted to motivate. She came out, I don't know, y'all, if she had something written eloquently on a piece of paper. We don't really know what type of writing instrument she was privy to. But we do know is that she took some time to prepare. Remember, we talked about preparation, especially in the early part of the biblical preaching book. Now, here's another thought-provoking question for you. how do you know? Or what were some things that stuck out to you to say Miss Stewart was prepared? Because remember, I think we were talking in our panel, somebody asked a question to one of our preachers, like, what do you do if you just got to jump up there and go? Well, do you think that Miss Stewart just, oh, I'm gonna just get up here and say something? Angela, I see you say, no. So, go
Yeah,
ahead.
the only thing I would say is just the flow of the speech or the sermon. It flowed as if from the beginning to the end that she was building to the point to get that action that she was seeking.
So she had a flow, and her flow was because she was prepared. Now you could tell that she was prepared. Let me see if I wanted to try to pull it up on the screen, but you could tell that she was prepared because, okay, remember all the way back, like chapter 1 in our book, Haddon Robinson said that a lot of preachers missed the mark on the preparation because the preaching wasn't biblically based, right? We could tell, that Miss Stewart, sorry, we could tell that Miss Stewart was biblically based in her sermon because she quoted it and she applied the principles to the people. Even though she was talking about things that were currently going on. Now let's just pause. Oh, okay, thanks, David. Let's just pause right there. So remember we said that yes, the minister should be, or the preacher should be well versed in things. This was like what, chapter 2 or so, well versed in what's going on in culture, looking at the newspaper, looking at the news, looking at what's going on with the congregation. And Miss Stewart, the whole sermon is about what's going on right now. It would have been really crazy for her to jump up and talk about anything else. She's an African, she was, well, maybe at that time, maybe referred to as an African woman, but what was there to talk about unless she was talking about the current ills of the nation? I mean, they couldn't go out and get jobs and all this other stuff. And it's, yes, to encourage people, but she was like, look, this is the main agenda. We're not free and we got some work to do. And I love the title, Why Sit Ye Here and Die? And let me see if I can pull it up here. Let me see if I can pull this up real quick before we move on. Excuse me, y'all. Okay. I do want to talk about this real quick before we move on. Remember, y'all, we talked about language. Okay. What does her language say to you as an educated person in 2023? What does her language say to you?
Her language
So,
was satisfactory for that time.
oh, good. Thanks, Mr. Lester. We can hear you now.
Intelligent.
She is
I'm
intelligent.
She's very intelligent.
Right.
And both of you are awesome. Both of you are on it. Yes, as Mr. Lester said, her language is acceptable for the time. It's 1832. That is how they talk. But not sure if we could use the same grammar um, with educated groups of folks in 2023. And Angela says, and throughout her word choice, we can see her wit and her intelligence. that she knows the word and she knows her congregation. And remember, I'm trying to apply some of these things. We talked about idea and having a concept. And she had all of this in her head, right? But what good is it? I think Haddon Robinson said, what good is it if the preacher has this wonderful idea in his or her head and you can't get it out? And Angela, you're on mute.
It has to be written.
Say it one more time.
He said it needed to be written.
It needed to
Right?
be written. Thank
Be
you.
written.
Right. So you could see her intelligence as she was able to get the thought process, the idea, right? The subject, all of that out in a way that her audience could follow her. Okay. But anyway, I really enjoyed it and I hope that you enjoyed it as well. um it's not like, we're not going to probably hear this type of sermon in 2023. But even just the way that she presents it is, we're going to talk about organization, but I think that we were definitely able to follow her. I picked one that wasn't too long, but I think it was easy to follow her. And of course, this is one, we can't hear her or anything like that. We would just totally have to read it. All right, everybody, let's get caught up. Let me go back to our syllabus. Okay, here we go. Okay, here we are. Let us come forward now. We are in week 6. Today, we're going to talk a little bit more about the next assignment, which is the sermon introduction. I'm going to walk you through the final project. So I want to do some explanation today. And it's probably going to take me a little while. Y'all bear with me with my voice. And I'm going to walk you through what the final project looks like, okay? And all of that. So if you just stay with me, let me change my slide. So I see some of you all have started working on the sermon introduction, and you'll hear me use the word sermon and homily interchangeably. They're all the same. And really what you're doing is a very short sermon, which is called a homily anyway. All right. Hold on, everybody. Stay right there. Okay, so I'm going to go back to your class. All right. And we are going to go right here. You see week 6, week of July 3rd. That's where we are. So I'm going to click right here. And I hope that you all are following me. And I'm going to click on the assignment sermon introduction. But I also put right here a handout that you can look over a little bit later that talks about inductive and deductive preaching. And we'll talk a little bit later tonight about how our sermon takes shape and outlining. But let's go first to the directions for your homily short sermon assignment. Let's see here. Because sometimes when I move around the screen, let me know if you can see the directions. Are you able to see the directions where it says final project? No, all right. See, that's what happens sometimes it seems like when I open up things, people can't see it. What about now? All right. Thanks, Angela. All right, everybody. So if you have a piece of paper or if you have your syllabus with you, you can kind of jot off a couple of things. The first thing that we're going to walk through on this final project is the introduction. The introduction to your homily short sermon will be due on Sunday. I'm going to walk you through it. So we're going to talk about that in quite some time. Then the next part to your project, number 2, is going to be the outline. And then the third part to your project is to deliver it. And we're going to talk about all of that. So we're going to probably spend quite some time talking about the final project tonight. So I want you to ask all the questions you can think of because our students who are here are going to probably have the same questions. All right. So your final project is going to be 7 minutes, a 7-minute homily. A homily is just a little short sermon or talk. Once again, right here in the yellow, I want you to remember this is Atlanta Metropolitan State College. I'm not expecting you to be a preacher. Angela was like, thank you. For this final project and for the class, for everything, remember, you're not required in any way to preach it. If you go up to the top, this is just about encouragement or exhortation. This course is simply meant to help you get an idea of the process of putting a sermon together. Or think of it like this, putting a speech together, putting a paper together that you may talk, okay? So it's just like that. That's all. And for the final project or your homily, you're going to encourage others with your words and your thoughts. So don't worry, you're not expected to be somebody who you're not. You're just going to be yourself. How will we do this project? Okay, so it's what? Today's the 6th of July. So we're going to start talking about this in 3 phases. The first phase, like I said, we're going to work on the introduction. Second phase is the outline. And the third phase is to record it. And if you can't record it, we're going to talk about that in just a second. So y'all just stay with me. Let's start with part A. What text will you use? What text will you use? Everybody's going to use the same text. Everyone is going to use Psalm 23. Psalm 23. Psalm 23. Okay, so it all starts with the text. Now remember, way back, what was this, like chapter, before I went on vacation, what was that, like chapter 4, 5, or whatever? We talked about, remember we did that exercise where we marked things and we kind of separated things? Okay, you in your spare time are going to take some notes. Remember we did that practice on note taking? Excuse me, y'all. We did that practice on note taking. Sorry. We did that practice on note taking. So I want you to start taking notes. Like, what does the text say to you? What, what jumps out? So I want you to remember, I think that was like a discussion post, like week 3 or 4, where we just took notes of a particular scripture. Then you're going to look at it and say, well, remember y'all, we said, hey, we can't preach a whole chapter of something because that person would be there forever. So I want you to look at this quickly. We won't read all of it, but Psalm 23 is a very, I call it famous or well-known scripture in Old Testament. So it has seven, I believe six verses. 6 verses. Okay. You do not have to deal with all 6 verses. You do not have to work with all 6 verses. Okay. Now, everybody look at the screen on letter B, which is highlighted right here in yellow. And remember, all of this, y'all, is in D2L. What's this week? 5, 6, week of July 4th. So once you read the text several times, I say about 10 times, you're going to jot down those ideas. You're going to say, what comes to my mind when I read this text? What do I see? And I'm so excited because what's going to happen is, I think we have 11 students in this class. And all 11 of you are not going to see the same thing. All 11 of you are going to see different things in the text. You're going to say what strikes you as interesting, what is astounding, what do you want to hone in on to? Once again, you're going to focus on those verses, maybe 1 or 2 verses, okay, that stand out. You do not need to address all of the verses in your homily or in your little sermon. Once again, I know somebody's going to say, well, what do I need to do? You're going to read your scripture, take notes, what comes to mind. Then you got to narrow it down. You do not need to use all 6 verses. You're going to focus on what verses stand out to you. So what may stand out to Angela may be different from what stands out to James, may be different from what stands out to Lester. It's all going to be different. Or guess what? It could be the same, but the way that you approach it could be different. All right, let's look at letter C. For example, you could focus on maybe verses 1 and 2. You may focus on verses 5 and 6. Okay. Or maybe you might focus on verse 4. It is up to you. Letter C in our introduction. And I gave you an introduction checklist. In your introduction, and you can write this out, you're going to start off with a hook. What is a hook? So use all of the information that I gave you. You could start off with a question. You could start off with a question. You could start off with a fact, a statistic. You could start off with a story. Okay. So that all depends on what verses you're focusing on. And I want to be real careful of like giving y'all, I don't want to give y'all the whole thing. But let's say if the person focuses on verses 1 and 2, okay, maybe the person is focusing on lack or what shepherd is. Maybe the person is focusing on verses 4. Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I will fear no evil. You are with me. Your rod and your staff comfort me. Maybe they're talking about walking through bad times. It's totally up to you. Okay. All right. Somewhere in that introduction, you're going to mention your purpose. All right. Today, I want to talk to you about, sticking with God when you're in a valley or whatever. In your introduction, make sure that you focus on your topic. What is your topic? Now, everybody is going to come and look at Psalm 23 differently. Some people might focus on faith. Some people might focus on provision. Some people may focus on hope. Some may focus on the eternal life, whatever it is, that's up to you. But in your introduction, make sure that your topic is clear. All right. Related to your audience. What do you want them to get? Why do you think that your audience in 2023 is concerned about provision? Okay. And then I took the liberty of doing this and trying to help you out a little bit with organizing your homily. And so the last point in your introduction checklist is to maybe give like a central idea of what you're going to talk about. And that central idea statement could be something like, well, today I want to share with you, 2 ways to increase your faith, or, whatever it is. I don't know what you're going to accomplish. All right. So your sermon introduction is what you're working on this week. That just for the length that you have. So you have a 7-minute project. It could be 1 full paragraph. It could be maybe 2 paragraphs, but I wouldn't say any more than 2 paragraphs. That'd be too much. Okay. So we're looking at, for your sermon introduction, excuse me, y'all, for your sermon introduction, look at least 1 full paragraph. I said about 5 to 6 sentences, but you might have a little bit more than that, but I wouldn't say you can't have anything less than that. All right. Your sermon outline is the next project, is the next part of the project. Your sermon outline can follow this format. Remember, the outline is going to be focused on Psalm 23 and remember, whatever verses that you said that you're going to deal with, nothing else. Okay. So for example, this is just an example. Once again, this is just an example. Y'all can use this template. So it says template. You put your title, your scripture text. Everybody using the same Psalm 23, but whatever your verses are. Your introduction, you'll put your introduction in with whatever you did for this week. You'll put your central idea statement. And that's the last sentence. Excuse me, y'all, of my voice. That's the last sentence in your introduction. Now, in your outline, you might have 2 points. You might have 3. This is an outline. This is an outline. This is the outline. So I want everybody to understand that you may have 3, you might have 2, but don't get scared if you're like, I don't know if I don't have 3 and I'm stuck. But you can't have 1 point, okay? All right, so I want to walk you through a couple of things here. Your first point or so, or what we would call like a compliment, and then you would refer to that particular verse that it comes from. So let's say if I was saying that God is a shepherd, God is a provider, where does that come from? Verse 1. And explain, how is God a provider? A and B. Now, I'm not going to give it all away. That's some of your research. Okay. Then you're going to transition somehow. Remember, y'all, this is an outline. You're going to add your information in there. Okay. Then you're going to transition to point 2. Here's a second compliment. Maybe I'm going to deal with verse 2 now. Or maybe I'm on verses 5 and 6. Okay. Okay. And then you're going to back it up and explain it in A and B. Okay. And then transition. Transition means we're going to use an illustration, or where you're going to use a point to move on to something else. Some of you might have a third point. Some of you might not. If you don't force it. Remember, write it. You can write it like a paper. Outline it just like you would a paper. And then the last part will be a conclusion. This is your outline. Bring us back to what you were proposing. I don't know what verses you're focusing on, so I don't want to give things away. You want to remind them that, remember, I said this, this, and this. Give them, look at letter B, give them something to do. Help them to apply it to their everyday life. Help them to see it in 2023. And then you could give them some encouragement or some type of direction in the end. And then we're going to call it quits. Once again, before I move on, and I'm going to come back to y'all, answer your questions. This is a sermon outline template. You're going to cut and paste and move your stuff around. But please don't get scared. Once again, if you don't have 3 points, I'm not forcing you to have 3, but you should have at least 2. Okay, we're only 7 minutes. Now, I'm sorry, y'all. Let's talk about how your homily or your short sermon will be graded. This will be content area. So I'm going to look at, did you look at the context of Psalm 23? Like which particular verses did you work with? Remember, we're not working with all 6 verses, and that'll hurt you too if you try to deal with all 6. Make sure that you use some illustrations, real life illustrations, or practical things that people can apply to their lives. Okay, we talked about the introduction tonight. Any type of main points that you have. And if you have 2 points, or if you have 3 points, letting us know that you're moving from one point to the next. Let's talk about delivery and how we're going to do it. Making sure that you are yourself. Once again, I can't say this enough. You are, if you're not a preacher, you're not a preacher, and I'm not making you be one. You be yourself. And you remember, this is encouragement. We're taking your thoughts that are in your head, your ideas, and you're getting them out to share with somebody. Okay? So you're using your pronunciation skills and delivery. And when we deliver, we just want to make sure we have a decent shirt or blouse on. All right. How will we present this? Now, let's go back to, and I'm going to answer your questions. Let me come back to y'all. Let's go back to our schedule. So if we look on, if we look at our syllabus, y'all, it is moving real fast. Where is this year going? Hold on. Pull our syllabus up again. Okay, let me know when you can see the syllabus back on the screen. Okay. All right, everybody. So we are here. We're here in week 6. Okay. Yeah. We're here in week 6. Sermon introduction is going to be due on Sunday night. Then next week, you're going to start working on your outline. I don't expect all of your outlines to be perfect. And then they will be due on, excuse me, y'all. The outlines. So what's this Sunday, y'all? The 9th. Your sermon introduction will be due on the 9th. Your outlines should be due on the 16th. And then I want you to continue to work on those outlines because you're going to still be tweaking them. Okay. Now, a lot of folks are, I got the 8-minute on there. A lot of folks are like, well, how are we going to do this? For individuals who are tech savvy and you feel comfortable with recording yourself, you can record it and upload it and send me a file. For those people who are like, I'm not trying to do all that, it's too much. I will be here on our regular Thursdays. So our course is going to end, I believe we're going to be ending like July the 31st. So I'm going to schedule some time either, I believe Thursday the 27th would be our last virtual meeting. I believe Thursday the 27th. And I will confirm that with you all. Let me make sure we could do it during finals week. So long story short is, for those folks who say, I don't feel comfortable with recording anything, you're going to come on like we do on Thursday evenings and you'll present it so that I have it recorded and I can, give you the grade and all of that. Okay. But I know some folks are working, and they can't make it on Thursdays in the evening. So sorry. And so you're going to record that. Most folks love to use their phones, upload it to a YouTube or Vimeo or something, and you're going to send me the link. For those folks who are like, that's too much, I can't do all that, that is totally fine, because I'm going to be here on a Thursday evening. You're going to come with your awesome self and your outline, and you're going to present what you got. Okay? So I know I've been talking a lot. Let me rest my throat for a second and answer your questions. Any questions? Let me get my calendar. No questions? Let's see.
I have a question.
Hey.
The sermon introduction for the outline, is it supposed to be the same introduction, that's the very same introduction?
That's right. So the first part we're going to work on is the introduction. Okay? And then you're going to take that introduction, keep it. And then next week, we're going to work on the outline. Well, you got your outline partly done because your intro is already done.
Right. So it's very, so I can't change it. I can't use different, I can't just make
changes.
And yeah, I just can't make a synopsis of it. I can't make it just a couple general statements that saying the same thing.
Oh, you mean hold on. Excuse me. For the first assignment for introduction, I want you to write it out in those at least about 5 or 6 sentences.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Now next week when we dump that same introduction into the outline.
Okay, so you want the same thing?
Yes, we're going to dump it into the outline because it's going to be at the top now. Okay.
All right. I got you.
Now I think what you're saying is, just in case I want to tweak it and change it, sure you can, because this is going to be an evolving thing. You know how many times I've changed a paragraph or changed a point before it's time to preach? I changed it many times. And when I say change it,
yeah,
maybe
but it'll
I'm
be basically
tweaking
the same, is what I'm saying. I'm saying it'll be basically this. I could the way I have in mind and do it is all right. The outline that's due Sunday. That's one thing. I'm sorry. No,
that's
I'm sorry.
just the intro.
The introduction is one thing. I could do the same thing with different words with a shorter, make it shorter for the introduction for the outline. That's all I'm saying. Since the outline is going to have more of an impact, go ahead, more verbiage to it.
Okay. So remember, the introduction is still going to be part of your outline. It's going to be the first part of your outline.
All right.
So actually, you want me to go back to that graphic again?
I just want, I'm just painting a picture. You'll have to use very same outline I give you, say, let's do Sunday, right? I could do the same outline, but I'm just saying in my mind, I have the same I have the outline in my head, but I could write it shorter. I could write it shorter the same introduction, I could write the introduction shorter for the outline. That's all. If I can do
Oh,
that.
oh,
If not, I'll use the same one.
I understand what you're saying. So,
Yeah.
so for Sundays, I'm sorry, y'all. For the introduction assignment, make sure that because I want to see where you're going. I don't want that to necessarily be bullet points. I want that to be use that checklist. Use that checklist I gave y'all and make sure it has at least about 5 to 6 sentences as you're coming out the gate with what you want to talk to us about. You're gonna dump that same intro
Okay.
next week, and that's going to be the top of your outline. Then next week, you're going to start building on it and have your points.
Okay.
So it should be maybe 3 paragraphs long, the whole 7 minutes total. You should have an introduction paragraph, the compliments in your second paragraph, and maybe 3 sentences for your conclusion. So that would be about 7 minutes,
Yeah,
or
let's see. Let me go back
you
here.
need more.
So so right here you would have your type. Can y'all see the screen? I'm coming to you, David.
Yeah.
So where I have this is the outline, y'all. This is like a skeleton. So you're
So
gonna
5 sentences for the intro, 5 to 6
right.
minimum for the intro.
So you're gonna plump up this outline. So in this intro, you're gonna dump your 5 to 6 sentences or whatever about however you're going about this. Then
Yeah.
right here,
What's your
uh-huh.
purpose and where you're going with it,
Yes,
and the
ma'am.
idea in the beginning. All right.
Yes. Now,
Then,
Angela, you said should it be about three paragraphs or so? It could. It just depends on how detailed the person wants to get. Now, y'all remember, y'all, we got 7, 8 minutes or so. We'll have
okay,
all day. But like your first point is
for
whatever
five
from
paragraphs.
yeah, from
Five
whatever verse. Uh-huh. Yes, ma'am.
All right.
David.
Yes. So when you say record, do you mean like it's the video of us talking, like we show our face and everything?
Yes, that's correct. So remember, with preaching, the person is talking, and remember, you're just sharing information, about your ideas of this particular text. So you can either record it, upload it to, David, you're young. What you use, like YouTube or Vimeo or something, and send me a link. Or if that
Yes,
doesn't, yes, sir.
yes. Yeah,
Okay.
I'll do YouTube.
Okay. Is that okay?
Yes.
All right. Thank you for asking that question. All right.
I'll try. I never made a YouTube video before, none of that, but I'll try. I got some kids here to help me.
I will also, David and Angela and any other students who may be watching, I'll upload some videos that give you a tutorial or a how to.
Mm, okay.
And they're all free stuff, like Vimeo, what is it, VI, YouTube, um, and simply using our phone. Now, once again, for my folks who are watching the video, for my folks who are here that are like, I can't do all that, that is fine. You're going to show up. And I'm looking at my schedule and seeing when our last day is. Classes in July 28th. And it says the final exams go through the 3rd. So that would, we could do July 27 as
Yeah.
our presentation evening.
All
Okay.
right.
So students who are watching and students who are here, you could do, you know, I know some folks are working during this time and they just can't jump on. You're going to be responsible for recording it and sending it to me. And if that's can't do that, that's fine. But you're going to come on it is not June, July 27, and you're going to present with the group. Okay. But everybody's got to turn in something. Okay. All right. Now, y'all, I didn't expect that to take us about this whole time, but it did. But that's okay. I haven't seen you in a minute. Any question? Okay.
When everybody's done, I just want to ask you a question. When they're
Okay.
gone.
Oh, sure, no problem. I'm gonna be here. Okay.
All right.
Students, what I want you to do is, if you don't mind with my voice kind of going off, I want you to go to this week. And this is what I did. This is what happened when you go away and you go in all these hotels and stuff. You could never get anything right. And I came back with a cold. So for this week, the week of July the 3rd, I have a PowerPoint on here that says the shape sermons take. The shapes sermons take. I also included a handout for you on inductive and deductive preaching. I want to give you a disclaimer. It might be confusing. It might be a little confusing. So I want you to use the handout to help you. Here's my next disclaimer. Do not worry about trying to figure out, do I use inductive or deductive for my sermon outline? Don't get turned around, because most of you are going to use inductive, and you may not really know. I don't want you to be stuck like, I'm not getting it right, because most of you are going to fall into the same way because I set it up for you in your introduction. So there was a reason why I gave you those points in the introduction. Okay. Okay. But as sermons take shape, I want you to, the PowerPoint is going to help you a little bit, because the reading could be a little confusing, but it basically talks about how inductive, how a minister could organize the outline, how you organize your thoughts. Do we organize it in a way where we come out with the subject first and just give it all to them? And that's one way to do it. And then you reveal your points. Or sometimes a deductive way, you could kind of hide the subject and you reveal things, and then you're like, bam, this is what it is. Okay. That's what we mean by different ways sermons take shape. Why are we doing outlines? And that's in chapter 7. Try not to hold you too long. But in chapter 7, the end of Making Dry Bones Live also talked about outlines. And when you use an outline, it helps you see your sermon or your speech takes shape. That's the reason why I have you working on the intro first, and then you're going to put the rest of the outline, the body of it together. Because you're going to see that, oh, I got too much over here, or I got this coming together, but I don't have this point isn't coming together. You're going to see, what's the word? The skeleton of your presentation. That's the reason why we need outlines. It's just the way that you would write a paper. Okay. So the outline is going to be very helpful. All right, everybody. I do apologize for me sounding like this. I try to hold on. Any questions that you might have for me? Okay, so what are we working on this week? You're working on your introduction. Please, 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 everybody go to this week, which is what? The week of the 3rd. And you're going to see the direction. You're going to see the checklist for your intro. You're going to read, everybody's doing the same scripture. Psalm 23. Is everybody dealing with the same verses? Probably not. So your job is to take your notes, figure out what stands out to you, and that's what you're going to work with. All right. All right, everybody. I'm going to take some medicine. I'm going to see you next week, and I'm going to be feeling much better.
Bye, everybody.
Yo, take care. Thank you so much. All right. Oh, let me hit stop record on here.